I think that needs to be grappled with and dealt with, but it's not being dealt with by the Republican Party. I think the failure is not yours and mine as conservatives. The failure is the Republican Party to message to us. And they have allowed the Democratic Party to brand us. And they have branded, the Republican brand in America is fat cats and big wigs who sit up and who are insensitive and don't care about
and
people.
exploit us.
Right, and exploit us. That branding is not the reality of who we are. As much as it is what the Democrats say we are. And we are not very good at countering that or branding ourselves. And that's been my challenge to the Republican leadership for years, is that your problem is messaging.
But it seems like they're not listening.
Right, they're not listening. But that's what more of us need to get involved. More Latinos and more African Americans need to come into the party and rescue that party from the rhinos and the others. But part of what we need to do is message. So what the Democrats have done effectively, and I want you guys to hear me, this, what they've effectively done is exploited our perception of ourselves. We see ourselves as underdogs. And the Democratic Party says, I'm for the little guy. And as long as he says I'm from the little guy, he can be killing your babies, marrying your brother, and you're expanding the government. But as long as he said, I'm for you. You're my friend. And we believe that because that's how we see ourselves. And until we change our mentality, and I think that's where the gospel comes in, as to who we are. You know the story of the nation of Israel. They marched out into the wilderness, and God brings them right up to the promised land. He tells them, go in and take the promised land. And he sends them 12 spies. You know the story, pastor, the preacher. And he sends in 12 spies, and the 12 spies go in. And they come back and they give a report. They said it's just like God says it is. It's a land that's flowing with milk and honey. It's got everything that God says it is. But there's giants in the land. And we are but grasshoppers. That's how they saw themselves. And because they saw themselves as grasshoppers, they stopped listening to what God says who they were. The same thing is true with black people and Hispanic people. We see ourselves as grasshoppers.
Holy cow.
And the Democratic Party says, I like grasshoppers, you're my best friend. And we go right, like the Pied Piper blows the flute. We just go dancing right behind them as they destroy our families, destroy our communities, and destroy who we are as a people. And we don't see it. We don't see it. It's like rats going over the cliff. But it takes a message to do it. And that means you and I have got to craft a message to rescue our community. I believe the message is already there. It is the founding principles that made this nation great. Liberty, equality, natural law, the consent of the governed, rule of law, constitutionalism, individualism. All of those concepts produce the greatness of who we are as a nation. We need to cast those ideas, those principles back into the public square. Listen, your mother and my mother told us we could do anything we wanted to do. I know that's what my mother told me. I know what she told you because you achieved, because she was infusing in you the idea that you can do anything. That's the message of the founding principles. You can do it. You can make it. It's about individualism. Your liberty and your freedom to exercise that freedom in the marketplace of ideas and become all that you can become. That's what my mama used to tell me. Don't you know that's a positive message? That's a message that needs to be heard in the black community and the brown community. It needs to be heard. And in the white community right now, because we all are being seduced by statism.
Yes.
If I start talking about cutting back on Social Security right now, some of you white folks are getting get so mad. If I say cut back on Medicare and Medicaid, taking that off, those are entitlements that sit over here that nobody wants to touch. When I get to Washington, D.C., I say everything's on the table. Social Security's on the table, Medicaid's on the table. I'm just losing votes now. Medicaid, all that's on the table. Let's put it on the table. Let's put it on the table. And that's the kind of political courage it's going to take friends to turn this thing around.